Ever walk past a painting and get this feeling like it's hiding a whole secret story?
Oh, absolutely.
That's The Unequal Marriage by Vasily Pukarev for me.
Yeah.
And we're going to unpack all the drama, the social commentary, maybe even a ghost story or two.
Ooh, sounds a little spooky.
It's a little spooky. It's really interesting, though. So,
Okay.
okay, so picture this. You're standing in this dimly lit church.
Okay.
Maybe there's a chill in the air, that kind of faint scent of incense.
hmm
And at the altar, a wedding is about to take place, but something feels off.
It's in the details, isn't it?
It is totally in the details.
The way Pukarev sets this scene, it really draws you right in.
Absolutely. So you've got this young bride practically drowning in this mountain of white fabric, a crown of flowers on her head. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
She looks utterly heartbroken.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so powerful. She's not gazing adoringly at her groom. There's no joy, no excitement.
Ooh.
Those eyes almost look red and swollen, like she's been crying for days.
It's like she's at a funeral, not her wedding.
That is a powerful way to put it.
Yeah.
And it really speaks volumes, I think, about the context of marriage during that era.
Right.
This wasn't always about love.
Right.
This was a transaction,
Right.
often a means of securing social standing or financial stability, particularly for women.
And that brings us to the groom. And he's not just older, he looks like he could be her father, maybe even her grandfather. And it just makes her expression even more heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And there's just this stiffness to his posture, like the candle held out so rigidly, almost like, well, honestly, he looks like a grumpy old puppet someone just kind of propped up there.
Yeah, that stiffness, that lack of warmth. It's deliberate on Pukarev's part. This isn't a loving embrace we're seeing.
Right.
It's this visual representation of the power imbalance in this union.
It's like he's putting the cold and cold-hearted marriage right there on the canvas.
Totally.
And it's not just them, right? Like, the whole vibe of the crowd is way off.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody looks genuinely happy for them. Some look judgmental. Some are even whispering behind their hands. And we'll get into these characters a bit later because they get really interesting.
They really do.
But let's
Like
go.
Pukarev is giving us a window into a society
Yes.
on the cusp of change,
Yeah.
where these traditional power structures are starting to be questioned.
You know how a painting can feel almost too real sometimes? Like you're looking at a moment frozen in time?
Absolutely, like the artist's ability to capture not just a likeness, but an actual feeling and emotion in the...
Exactly. And this is where things get really interesting with the unequal marriage.
Yeah.
Remember that grumpy guy we mentioned earlier, the one in the background, arms crossed, staring daggers at the groom?
I think we can't miss him.
So it turns out that's Vasily Pukarev himself.
Oh, wow.
He put himself right there in the thick of it.
He did. And knowing that little biographical detail, I think, adds a whole new dimension to the painting. This wasn't just some detached observation on societal norms.
Right.
This was personal.
Are you telling me this whole unequal marriage thing wasn't just some social commentary? It was something he, like, experienced firsthand?
Exactly.
Wow.
Pukarev himself was smitten with a woman named Praskovia Matveevna Vorontsova. And as fate would have it, she ended up marrying an older, wealthier man.
No way. So
Okay.
he's...
Sound familiar?
Yeah, so he's channeling his heartbreak, his frustration with societal expectations directly onto the canvas.
Absolutely.
That glare from the back is not just artistic license, it's personal.
Precisely. And it gets even more interesting because there's a preliminary sketch of this painting from the same year, and that figure in the background is different.
Wait, what, he painted over someone else?
He did.
So who was the original grumpy groomsman?
Well, it's believed to be one of Pukarev's close friends.
Oh, no.
Apparently, this friend had also gone through a similar experience, heartbroken by a woman who chose a wealthier, older suitor. We don't know if the age gap was quite as stark as in the final painting, but it was enough that he asked Pukarev to remove him from the picture once he realized the inspiration behind it.
Wow, yeah, it really makes you think about that line between social commentary and personal expression in art. How much of this is like a critique on the norms? How much is this just Pukarev processing his own baggage?
That's the beauty of it. It can be both, right? And that's what makes it so interesting to unpack because it speaks to the power of art to reflect not just what we see, but what we feel, what we experience personally. And so I think that's what's so compelling about this.
Yeah.
And I think it goes even beyond a single heartbreak.
What do you mean?
Well, this wasn't just happening to Pukarev and his friend, right? Think about the historical context for a moment. In many societies, during this era, marriage was intrinsically linked to economics.
Right.
Especially for women. Their options were often limited by social standing and financial security.
Right.
And so Pukarev's painting while deeply personal, it really tapped into this much larger conversation about individual agency, societal pressures, and these evolving roles of men and women.
It's almost like you can feel the weight of all that just looking at them.
Right. And that brings us, I think, to the other women in the scene, specifically these two in the background.
Oh, yeah.
They've always fascinated me.
You know the ones we mentioned earlier? One with a similar flower crown to the bride, and that other one draped in white, standing kind of awkwardly near the priest?
Yeah.
They definitely give off this strange vibe, like they don't quite belong.
They're enigmatic,
Yep.
right? Like open to so many interpretations. And I think that just adds to the painting's power.
Right.
Some art historians see them, the older woman, especially with that matching wreath, as a representation of the bride's lost innocence,
Oh, wow.
or even a foreshadowing of her future.
Like she's looking at this warped reflection of herself trapped in this loveless marriage.
Exactly.
That's so clever, but also so sad.
It is, isn't it?
What about the other woman, the one in white? That's kind of an interesting choice considering.
It is, isn't it white, this color of purity, new beginnings, but also the color of mourning, of burial shrouds.
Okay, now that's haunting. Right.
It's like Pukarev is saying that this whole marriage is not a celebration. It's like this slow death of her spirit.
A powerful visual metaphor for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's the even more, I don't know if we want to say dramatic theory,
Go for it.
that these women aren't just random wedding guests, but the groom's previous wives back to haunt his new bride.
Oh my gosh. Are they ghosts? Are they symbols? Are they figments of Pukarev's imagination? I mean, I guess we'll never know for sure.
We'll never know, and I think that's part of what makes it so captivating,
Totally.
because so much is left open to our own interpretation.
It makes you think about the impact this must have had when it was first shown.
Oh yeah, this would have been a statement.
Right.
Can you imagine being like an older, wealthy gentleman who has just proposed to a much younger woman?
Yeah.
And then you go and see this painting.
And everybody's looking at you sideways.
Exactly.
I even read that some older grooms supposedly called off their engagements after seeing it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way to prove that, but
Probably an exaggeration, but still. It speaks to the power of art to challenge social norms
Yeah.
and to spark dialogue.
for sure. And even though it was painted centuries ago, these themes in the unequal marriage still resonate with audiences today.
Absolutely. Love and marriage, power, autonomy. These are complex, nuanced issues
Right.
that continue to be debated and redefined.
It really makes you think the next time you're looking at art, especially something like a portrait that seems kind of straightforward on the surface.
Mhm.
Remember that there might be these hidden layers, social critiques, or even personal stories just waiting to be uncovered.
Absolutely.
Who knows what you might find lurking beneath the surface?